Welcome to Fighting Back. News talk, current events. Political commentary. And now, here's your host, Ronald Lutter.
Well, good evening. I am Ron Lutters, and thank you for watching us on Hub Radio. This is Fighting Back with Ray Michaels.
Hello, everyone.
And our very, very special guest every Wednesday night, Josh Bernstein.
From JoshBernsteinUncensored.com.
All right.
Hey, thank you for watching the show tonight. The last few nights we've been trying different backgrounds here. We've got this massive studio, Ray, and everybody's just so impressed with it. And so we're in Studio C tonight.
Yes.
So you
It's
see
a beautiful,
it behind
beautiful
us.
studio.
Yes.
At any rate, we're going to try this and see how we like this. And there's so much going on, but a lot of it has to do with truckers.
Mm.
And I thought the best T-shirts would be "Truck You, Biden."
I actually have a Truckers Convoy T-shirt with the Canadian flag on it that I bought, and I was wearing on my other show. So
So
yeah,
at any
I'm
rate,
right
there's
on.
all
Well, you
kinds-
remember that whole thing with the guy with his leg out, keep on trucking? Yeah.
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 Well, there
And
you
there's
go.
all kinds of things you can do with the truckers.
That's
Yeah,
for
I mean,
sure.
there's just it's risky saying it because if you mess up, you get beeped and thrown off the air. But there's a lot of things you can do with the word trucker. Listen to that.
I like that. That's
Somebody
pretty good.
honking, the air horn.
Not bad.
At any rate, Josh,
Yes.
there's a lot of things that I want to talk about, but I know you've got some breaking news here.
Yeah, look, there's a trucker convoy that I talked about back in late January, early February on my show, and I said there was going to be a truckers convoy to D.C., and it was either going to be in late February or in very early March. Well, it looks like it could happen this weekend. One of the organizers, one of the main organizers, Bob Bullis, has said that he's going to D.C. and he's going to, quote, choke it like a boa constrictor snake. And so from what I am hearing and from what I am gathering, there could be a very big presence in D.C., but as of right now, it doesn't look like that. As a matter of fact, the people that I'm talking about are even getting some cold feet, number one, or number two, they understand that this is yet another January 6th type operation, and it could be a trap. And that's what I want to tell people. According to some of my sources, and I've got pretty good sources, 2 in Washington, 1 in Connecticut, they have told me that there's going to be some trucks that are going to pose as quote-unquote truckers. And in the back of those big rigs, they're going to have FBI agents, 8 to 9 per trailer. And there could be quite a few of them out there. And from what I've heard is they may be using Swift transportation trucks. So apparently, perhaps Swift is working with the FBI or what have you. Now, I don't know the reason why they're doing it other than to surveil, to get license plates, to get facial recognition. I mean, they're going to be set up in the back of these rigs with, desks, tables, computers, video equipment, surveillance equipment, all of that stuff. So I was telling some folks that, instead of going to DC and driving into another trap, why not just turn off the engines completely all around the world? Hashtag stop the trucks worldwide. I think if every single truck driver, and there's millions of truck drivers around the world, if they decided to just turn off their engines for at least 90 days, let's be humane, water, food, medical supplies, but everything else completely stops. Think about the pressure that you would put on these leftist tyrants and globalist leaders around the globe that want to mandate you and want to vaccinate you and put masks on you and keep you locked inside your homes and all these other horrible things that they are doing and getting away with. Well, as I pointed out 5 months ago in September of 2021, the truckers have enormous power. Now, the question is, do they have the bravery to actually use it? Let's hope that they do.
A lot of people are wondering, what does a convoy look like? We've been seeing them parked, and we see them setting up barbecues and with families and jumping castles, and you see it really is like a big
hockey,
like a big carnival, right? But if you go back in time a little bit, and I don't know if we have that ready on. Yeah, we have that one ready. This kind of gives you an idea, because this isn't a new idea.
No.
When we were growing up, CBs were really positive.
Yes, they were. They were very popular.
They were popular. Did you have a handle?
I did not. No,
You didn't.
No.
But you were too young, I think.
I was gray squirrel, brown fox, all of those things.
Were you
No, I
bald
was
back
4
then?
years old.
Now,
I was 4 years old. So-
Now, Ron, you had a handle.
I did.
What was
What
your
was your
handle?
Dream Warrior 7745-6671.
Wow, Dream Warrior.
Dream Warrior.
I was the Golden Eagle, KQY 1672.
Oh,
And that was a lot of fun. But do we have that ready? Yeah, okay, we're going to play something here. And we want you to watch this just for a minute.
And some of you will remember this.
Okay. I love a girl.
No, I do that. That one I do remember. That one I do remember.
Well, we don't, I mean, this was all for fun. We don't advocate for
Violence and
well,
stuff.
for destruction of property and for violence and everything. This was just a motion picture from about 1978.
I think it was 77 or 78.
Yeah. And of course, we saw the military come in. But you know what? We saw this in Canada. It's happening right now.
Yes.
And we want to talk a little bit about Trudeau and what's happening over there. Because you had, let me tell you something. If you are not on JoshBernsteinUncensored.com. If you're not there, you need to go to that website and you need to subscribe, because you're constantly coming out with some amazing information. And I think was it yesterday that you covered this?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about this.
Well, basically, there was a Huffington Post article from December 12th of 2014. That's how long ago this was, when I guess he was running for office at the time. And in the Huffington Post article, it literally said, and the headline was, "If he's elected, he will become a dictator." And the info on it is
Didn't he
right.
say
you are.
that he admired dictators?
Oh, absolutely. So here it is. The article from the Huffington Post says, the leader of the party, meaning the Liberal Party, Justin Trudeau, does what he wants, when he wants, and no one dares to question him. Would a Prime Minister Trudeau arbitrarily whip the vote and outlaw certain moral questions? Could Prime Minister Trudeau be trusted to make decisions for the good of the country and not just for his own personal self-worth? And here is the scariest part of that article. Would a Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister call in the police to enforce his vision for Canada? Well, I think we already know the answer to that. And it ends with, let's hope we never have the opportunity to find out.
You know, I'm so surprised, and Ron, we talked about this a little bit, that everybody is now backing this emergency declaration. Not everybody, but in Parliament right now in Canada.
It passed the other day for another additional 3 weeks. And I think what people have to understand is that almost 50% of the entire Liberal Party in Canada is run, operated, and controlled by the World Economic Forum. Yeah. They have installed their own globalists and leftists into that government.
Tell us what that actually is. Ron, you know, what is the World Economic Forum? Who's it run by? Who the members? What is their plan? What's the reason they're around?
There's a number of people there. One of the big ones is, people say Charles Schwab, but it's not Charles. It's Klaus.
Klaus Schwab, who is basically the reincarnation of Adolf Hitler today.
And they want to control the world. A lot of these James Bond movies you guys see about, what's it, Chaos? Is that the name of that?
No, that was from Get Smart.
That was Get Smart, yeah. At any rate, all of these guys, you see them constantly in the James Bond movies. And these, they're all based on, I think, a character named Charles Schwab. Charles
Schwab is the guy that you do investing with.
Apparently, Klaus is not a very good investor either. So.
What is Klaus?
Ironically, he's not a good investor. Because you think
Klaus
the family
is a German name. Klaus is German, so it might be the reincarnation of, well, dare I say? No, I won't say it.
Oh, I will. Adolf Hitler. Go ahead.
But at any rate.
So the World Economic Forum, it's a collection of who's a member of this?
Billionaires, people with tons of money. And they don't want to lose it. But
so they're not elected officials.
Oh, no.
They're not chosen by anybody. They're not representing any country in particular.
Right.
Well, they want one world.
They want a one world government. They want a sustainability, as they call it. They don't want people to own property. They don't want people to eat meat. They don't want, it's all about environmental stuff as well. And they basically want to control the population.
So are we looking at like the Bilderbergs, Trilateral Commission?
Okay.
Rockefellers,
Rothschilds, the Council for Foreign Affairs or Foreign Relations, I think it's called.
And these people, they
CFO.
They want to control, and right now there's the big thing about controlling Bitcoin and digital currency.
Right.
And of course, you don't want digital currency. You don't want this fiat currency at all because somebody can manipulate it so easily.
Well, and what they can do is just go on a computer and take every bit of your money.
One day you have a home and you've worked hard for the things that you own, and the next day they can bankrupt you just by the switch.
And don't think that this is just sci-fi, because this is exactly what Trudeau did. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, he's a dictator now. I mean, Americans shouldn't be worried about what's going on in Russia with Ukraine. They ought to be worried about the dictatorship that is taking place just north of us in Canada. He did these economic security acts, or whatever this was, emergency acts, basically, and he passed it, and it's never been used before. But they, quote unquote, said that they were going to use it and have extra tools, is what they called it. Well, I guess tools means trampling on people with horses and stealing people's pets from them and freezing their bank accounts. I guess those are the tools that this creep, Fidel Castro's love child is all about. And so it's pretty scary what he's doing. Candice Bergen, not the actress, but just the Conservative Party leader, is trying to whip up enough votes to get a no confidence vote. Because here's the thing: if they can pass a no confidence vote, then that would force an election almost immediately, and you can get rid
how
of
does
this
that
tyrant.
differ from our election system? It's my understanding that
It's almost
we
like
have-
an impeachment, sort of.
yeah, so we have elections, every 2 or 4 years, right?
Yes.
But over
Parliamentary.
there, if somebody throws out a no confidence, like you said, it's like an impeachment because it would force an election that isn't on a timely manner, right?
Correct.
A timeline.
Correct.
Well, what we have
And
here
technically he can
in a
re-win, too,
parliamentary system, whatever party is the majority party, as long as they get their processes and their bills and so forth through, everything's cool. But once their program begins to falter, they can call, the opposition generally calls it for a vote of confidence. If in fact some people peel off of the majority party and vote with the minority party, that means we have no confidence in the leadership,
Right.
and we want a new election, which I think we probably need here very drastically and very badly.
That would
right
be
now.
nice if we had that here.
Well, it's not only is it no confidence, but it's no conscience here
It's
as well.
both.
Yeah.
It's absolutely both.
Well, speaking of the convoys, and
Yes.
there's this thing that there's several different groups, and some of them are very close to DC, and others are farther away. I read today where Pelosi is making sure that the barbed wire fences and the big metal fences go around the Capitol, and then of
Yeah,
course
not on the border.
No, not the border.
Just
The border's
around the
wide
Capitol.
open like a
on
sieve.
Washington,
At her house
DC.
is okay. Her
Oh,
house
yeah,
is okay.
yeah, of course.
And neighborhoods is okay. Not around our
But
country.
now listen to this: Secretary of Defense Austin, another bimbo.
The affirmative action candidate.
He has decided now, because he was asked to call out National Guard units to protect the city.
Oh, now they call out the National Guard.
Well, it's
When
so
Trump does
amazing
it, they
because
ignore it.
Oh, yeah.
because we had a president who wanted to bring out the National Guard
And they
for
were refused.
yeah,
You know.
but now it's okay. All right.
So the thing is now, why are we doing this? This is the key element of it. It happened in Canada, and the same thing is happening now, and that is the mandate to get a vax. People just believe that it's an individual choice and it should not be mandated. And I'm totally in agreement with that concept. It's the American way. How do you stop all this? How can you stop these convoys? How can you stop National Guard units from being called out? How can you stop the spending of millions of dollars putting a fence up? All you have to do is say, there's no mandate for getting a vaccine. We encourage you to do so, but if you choose not to, that's your right as an
Yeah,
American.
I think people forget, and Josh, you probably know this better than anybody. They forget that they're not asking for the world. They're asking for something very specific, and they're asking for their voice to be heard. Now, am I missing the point here?
No, I don't think you are. But, again, I don't even want them to just, say no more mandates. I want to punish them. I do. I'll say that. I have no problem. I want to see them resign. I want to see them actually go away. And the best way to do that is, as I said, turn off the trucks. You don't have to get arrested. You don't have to get, put your lives in safety. You don't have to be trampled on by a horse. You don't have to be put in a paddy wagon. You can just stay at your home and you can be in your house and drink some beers and watch television and just turn the truck off.
And then
It's
if
not
you-
like they can replace truck drivers. There's no such thing as scab truck drivers, right?
Right.
You have to have
it
certain
takes 3
licenses.
months or 4 or 5 months just to figure out how to back up one
And you
of
have
those
to have a
things.
commercial license.
Right. It's a process.
And the other thing, even if you're working for a company and they say you'll be out there and it's, I've got a terrible thing.
Is there there's a truckers union, right?
Yeah, I
Where do
believe-
they
yeah.
stand on all this?
That's a good question.
I haven't heard much
That's a
about
good question. I don't think they
I
have
haven't heard a
said
word, as a
anything
matter of fact.
publicly at all. I know some of the unions are against it, which is unfortunate, and some of them are for it. But I haven't heard anything from I think it's the MTA.
Well, the
Truckers Association.
Well, the
NTA.
unions as a whole obviously wouldn't want it because
wasn't
if
Hoffa
the trucks,
in charge of one of these?
what's that?
Hoffa was
The guy that's buried underneath the Meadowlands?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. He was in charge of the United Truckers or something like that. I don't know what the name of the organization was.
I thought it was
Teamsters.
the Teamsters Union.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was it.
So,
Teamsters.
but I can understand why the unions would not want these truck drivers to turn off or to stop delivering, because if goods and services are not coming from one side, loaded into the truck, that's a union, loaded off the truck, that's
Sure.
another union, delivered, that's
Sure.
another union. So I can understand how they would not want it. But what about the truckers union, just the independent union saying,
or the truckers themselves.
right, just saying, you know,
Bottom line is short-term pain for long-term gain. That's what this is all about. And if you're going to preserve liberty and freedom and prosperity in this country and other countries and give back that freedom that they have taken from many of these people in Australia, in New Zealand, in Denmark, in Norway, in Germany, and Brazil, and the United States, and Canada, and everywhere else, well, what's the best way to do that? We are in power, not the leaders.
That's right.
We are the ones that have the power, and we have enormous power. And if we exert and use that power, if we have the guts and the bravery to do so, we could change the world in less than 90 days. That's a fact.
Well, it's called people power, and that was what there was the original Tea Party, Ray, where we're not going to pay the taxes on this.
right?
And they got together and threw the tea overboard, and people stuck together for the most part, and that's what we need to do here. It's a simple process. I mean, we already know that that the COVID issues they're real convoluted. Nobody's sure what's going
Well,
on.
Bill Gates said that Omicron was the best form of immunization for COVID-19. I mean, that says a lot, that the actual virus itself is the immunization.
Yeah.
I reported on that. Remember that
Yeah.
one video I said,
Yeah.
the virus is the vaccine and the vaccine is the virus. And that was from the information that came out of DARPA from the James O'Keefe blockbuster, undercover interview.
So
Or not
you
interview,
would
expose.
think that all they're looking for is to leave me alone, right?
That's
Just let
really
me
what
make
it's all
my own
about,
decisions.
I hate to interrupt this fun fest, but we have a commercial coming up here.
Yes,
And yes, and we're going to take a short break.
and they're good people. We
There
like
is
our-
a lot more to come here with Mr. Bernstein and Ray Michaels and Ron Letters. We'll see you on the other side. Do not go away.
When it comes to roof work, people ask, do you know a guy? Let me save you a little time and money. Call me. I'm Lori Clark, owner of Right Way Roofing. Our family started in the roofing business in 1963 on the promise there's only one way, the right way. We protect your roof with thick, waterproof, rubberized asphalt, not felt paper. So when it's time to repair or replace your roof and you need a guy, I'm your girl.
Right Way Roofing, and we do it right. We'll always keep you watertight.
Hi, I'm Marta Llamas and I own a commercial cleaning company. Now that many people will be getting back to work, let's get your facility ready for them with our total disinfecting, wipe down, and fogging procedures. Our two-step process will help you ensure that your offices are safe. Call me today for a free estimate, and together we can help protect your employees. Thank you, and let's continue to stay safe.
Hi there, my fellow Americans. I'm Teddy Roosevelt Jr., and I may have lived in the 19th century and the early part of the 20th century, the American century. But when I want current news, I listen to Hub Radio Phoenix. It's just bully.
Hey folks, Pinal County Sheriff Mark Lamb here. With the increase in private businesses and even government organizations talking about mandating the vaccine, I wanted to let you know that here at the Pinal County Sheriff's Office, we do not mandate the vaccine, and as long as I'm your sheriff, we will never mandate the vaccine. We believe that your health choices are yours and yours alone, so whether you get the vaccine or don't get the vaccine, that's your private information. Here, we believe in America and freedom, and we're going to continue on with that. God bless.
Welcome back to Fighting Back. News talk, current events, and political commentary. And now here's your host, Ronald Lutter.
Welcome back, everybody. We'd like you to spend a little time with our sponsors because they make this show happen. And without them, there's no show. So please join them and tell them you saw it here on Hub Radio Phoenix.
You know, we just had the representative from Deaf Protection. Now, you've had that for quite some
I
time.
have, yeah.
What do you find it very positive?
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I've noticed that if I'm having a conversation with someone and I get disconnected all of a sudden, that means it's doing its job.
Wow.
And it doesn't happen all the time. It did when I first got it. It was like all the time. But I think they kind of understand that I have it now. So there's very few interruptions. But it's a great service. It's endorsed by President Trump. It's endorsed by General Flynn. It's endorsed by me and a few others. And so, yeah, check it out. It's also on the banner on JoshBernsteinUncensored.com or JBUShow.com. You'll see the banner, and it says deafprotection.com. Check it out and get it.
You know, we like to say JoshBernsteinUncensored.com, but you
Yes,
can
I like
reach
the way you
it
say
in
it.
a different way, right?
Yeah, JBUShow.com.
JB me
Could be.
or JBU?
JBU, as in Josh Bernstein
Maybe
Uncensored.
or could be.
Could be. You just never know. But I got so many people saying, I can't spell this, uncensored, your last name, ERNST. Give me something shorter. So finally, I relented and I found another URL, and it's still the same website, but it goes directly to it.
Now, if you
So
missed
it's
that, you're going to go to the
JBUshow.com.
you're going to go to the John Birch Society. If you
Yeah, you never know. Could be.
All right, so I'm really concerned about what's happening in Canada. Where do you see the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks with this emergency authorization? What do you see happening? What's in the crystal ball?
Well, I would say this. You have quite a few provinces in Canada that have already signaled that they're going to get rid of their vaccine mandates, regardless of what the government does.
And even
So you
Quebec,
have-
right? Even Quebec?
Yeah, Quebec, which was a shocker. I think it was Quebec, it was Prince Edward Island, it was Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and there might have been one other one. So you have 4 or 5 that are saying, you know what, we're done. We're not doing vaccine mandates anymore. So what that does ultimately is it weakens, I think, the Trudeau, regime, dictatorship now, whatever you want to call it, filled with or actually current globalists, and even Chrystia Freeland, which I reported on as others did as well, not just me, that her grandfather was a Nazi, was an actual Nazi that worked underneath Adolf Hitler. And yet they're running around, Trudeau in blackface and calling the truckers racist and all this other stuff. Meanwhile, he's got the granddaughter of an actual Nazi as his finance minister, who, by the way, loves George Soros.
So, Ron, how concerning is this? You are a historian. You love to do investigations on things, and knowing that our neighbor to the north is moving very quickly in this direction, how concerning is that to you?
It's a great deal of concern because North America, and that includes Mexico, the United States, and Canada, are some of the 3 larger nations in the world. And if you take a country like Canada with the vast resources they have, albeit in the frozen tundra, but even our pipelines that are coming down, they're coming down with oil from Canada, if they had finished them up, the one that President Trump had authorized. And they have tremendous resources. Now, imagine just for a moment that our oil supplies could be cut off by a friendly neighbor that speaks English, that visits our country, and we visit their countries almost without passports. They are required, but I remember a day when you didn't. You probably remember that too. You want to go to Canada, you just cross the bridge at Windsor and you're in Canada. And it's a marvelous country. It's a beautiful country with absolutely dynamite people, just like Americans. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, if it wasn't for a couple of words like a boot and ooch, you'd think they were Americans.
Hey?
I like that one.
That's the other one.
Pretty good. But look, I think what can happen is if they can whip up enough votes, because the Trudeau dictatorship, his party, they don't have a huge advantage or a quote-unquote mandate in their parliament. It's actually a pretty thin margin. And so if you can whip up enough votes, obviously, the Conservative Party and some of the other, smaller fractured parties there and coalesce around it, you could get a no confidence vote. That's the question.
Let me just interrupt there just for a minute. They took some votes today on this emergency situation that Trudeau had called, and very much like the United States, it went down party lines. There were no defectors on either side.
Right. Exactly.
It's a very, very strictly parallel universe.
But you'd think with what they're seeing around the globe.
Oh, he's been condemned worldwide for what he's doing.
You wonder why he's pushing this so hard.
Yes, you do.
Well, I think it could be political is one reason. Number two, I think that he's always wanted to be a dictator. I mean, here's a guy in 2014 that was doing a town hall, and he was caught literally saying that he loves the authoritarian regime in China, the CCP. And then he talked about them having flexibility with their dictatorship. He literally said that. And I'm thinking to myself, flexibility? Really? What, like the Uyghur Muslims being raped, tortured, and held against their will in concentration camps? Is that the type of flexibility that little Castro is talking about? Or could it possibly be when the pandemic came out and the Chinese were going around to the apartment buildings and they were taking temperature gauges, shooting people in the forehead, and if you had a temperature, you had 4 or 5 guys behind them, and I showed videos of this with nail guns and boards, wooden boards, zoop, 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 locking them in their homes until they die? Is that the type of flexibility that the authoritarian regime by the CCP is showing everyone? Unbelievable.
It seems to me that worldwide, that the concept, they keep saying democracy, which really burdens me, because democracies mean people rule totally without, representative government and constitutional government.
Right.
And they don't have a good constitution such as ours, as does Australia. And we've seen what's happened. Years ago, Ray, I think you'll agree that Australia, Canada, and the United States were considered the bastion of freedom.
Yes.
Yeah, we're not even in the top 10, even in 2021's list, in the most free countries. So I can't even imagine what the new 2022 list is going to show and where America is.
We're 26th or 27th right now.
Probably, yeah. I was going to say 25, 30, 35. That's embarrassing. We were in the top 5 year in, year out for
And guess what
decades.
country is number 1?
I think it's Iceland or
It's
Switzerland.
Close. But Ray, you probably been
Switzerland
there on the
or
ship.
Iceland?
Norway. Number 1 for freedom.
Well, look,
They drive fjords.
They do, and Chevys too, I think, right?
Chevys and fjords.
And fjords.
And Volvo.
Yeah, that would be in Sweden, right? But look, I think it's embarrassing that we have fallen so fast, so far, so fast. Really.
How could we get so far away from our founding fathers' dream?
A stolen election.
And courts that are not elected.
Courts that are not elected.
I'll tell you what, I'm a firm
For
believer.
life, I might
Do
add,
we
in some
trust
cases.
our judicial system? Because the founding fathers, way before taxation without representation, judicial overreach was a big, big concern for them.
It was.
And that's why when you look in the Constitution, the legislative branch has the most power. Second is the executive, and the Constitution lists a Supreme Court, and then every other court is by an act of Congress after that.
Right.
It's very small. They're not 3. We're taught 3 separate yet equal branches, but
they're definitely not equal.
constitutionally,
Not even close.
that is not accurate.
No. And the executive branches for Republicans and Democrats, I mean, let's call it what it is. They have grown exponentially, and I think the main reason is through executive action, through executive orders.
And who wants to be bossed around by a separate governmental agency that were not elected?
Right, exactly.
Well,
and executive orders, just real quick, they were always for naming a post office. They were for mundane tasks, not for legislation.
Or immigration.
Obama is the one that really kicked it into gear on the executive orders.
How's your impersonation of Obama?
I can't do that one.
No? No, your Fauci's great.
Let me be clear.
But does he say, I got a pen, I got a phone?
I think so.
Let's talk just a minute about the United States Constitution and where the power lies, okay? The Congress of the United States, and Ray, you and I talk about 17th Amendment probably every show.
Yeah.
The people elect the representatives. The state governments elected at one time, the Senate. These were the people that made the laws of the country. No one else made laws.
And the power of the purse.
Yes,
right.
And they had and it had to start in the House of Representatives, all money.
All bills.
Absolutely.
With the closest organization to the people. They pass the laws. Now, we call it the executive branch, the president. They administer the law. They don't make law.
They don't make law. Exactly.
They administer the law, and then when there's violation of the law, then the courts come in and say, yes, you did, or no, you didn't violate the law.
Right.
That's ideally what happened. It's no longer the case. You know, we've got political people that are saying, well, you can't do this. And they say this is it. I mean, look at the border issues.
Yeah. Well, you know, that brings up
that are determining
that brings up an interesting subject, because they're always talking about the Biden administration or the Biden-Harris administration, and we want to do this, especially in what's going on in the Ukraine right now. The legislature is saying we want to be part of any decision you make if it involves our troops. Mm-hmm. And the Biden administration unilaterally is saying, no, that's what we're going to be doing.
No,
they're circumventing what is supposed to happen. And there was a lot of things, I mean, treaties that should have been treaties.
What does the law say about treaties? It's the United States Senate that approves them, not the president.
They made up this bull crap rule, basically, that says that a president in an emergency situation can authorize a utilization of war for a certain amount of time. I think it's 30 days. I think it's just 30 days.
That's the War Powers Act.
Right, without Congress.
Congressional approval.
And that's ridiculous.
But
that
what
should
if he
never, ever, ever be.
But what if the president created the emergency to make that decision?
Exactly.
Because that's where we're at right now.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, the fake media, there's a reason I call them prostitutes, because they're all liars.
And it's fun. And it's fun to say.
It's fun. And they sell out. Let's just face it, you know, and they're all going to take their marching orders from the fraudulent administration. It's very simple. Putin trumped Biden. Now, how did he do that? Well, basically, you had the ambassador from Russia saying that he's not going to invade. You had the Ukrainian president say that he's a liar. And so the only ones that are saber rattling around is the media and the fake administration. That's what's been happening. So what actually happened? Here's what happened. Vladimir Putin made a deal with two republics, which, by the way, have been self-governing themselves since at least 2014. And what did he do? He made an agreement with them, and he recognized their sovereignty and independence. This is Donetsk and Luhansk, I think was the name of it. Now, Ukraine has about 44 million people, and the Donetsk is about 2 million people. And so that's like the fifth largest city in Ukraine. It's in eastern Ukraine. Luhansk has about 410,000 people, and that's also in the same area. Because if Ukraine was to be a member of NATO, they would be a very powerful country, and they would have a lot of influence, and that would be right there next to the border of Russia. And Putin said, no way, I'm not going to have that happen. So that's what's happened. That's what's happening.
So, Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, but our mainstream media is saying this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen.
Which leads you to what are we being told, and what is actually going on?
So in a nutshell, if we wanted to do something that we would understand here.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's kind of one way to put it. I think that what we have to understand in the situation is that what Russia is doing basically is making Ukraine smaller. And I think he's going to keep doing that, because what's going to happen now is there's going to be other areas, other Eastern Bloc, former
Well, they picked
USSR.
the Crimea many years ago.
Right. And so they're going to start doing that, and they're going to start breaking off pieces of Ukraine and making it smaller and smaller and smaller. Because look, let's face it, both leaders of Russia and Ukraine are both bad guys. Okay, it's just a matter of the worst of two evils. Clearly, is Ukraine. They're more corrupt.
They're not a democracy as we in the Western world would consider.
They're the equivalent of the Democrats, and Russia are the rhinos. Okay, look, Putin is a former KGB agent. He wants to see the old guard back together, the USSR, the Cold War, all of that stuff. He's a bad guy.
Gentlemen, we have to take a break.
We do.
We just have to. You know why?
Why?
Because the light on the meter says it's time to take a break.
I thought the microwave was done.
Isn't that the French fries are done?
That's right.
We're
That's
gonna
right.
have some French fries and some ketchup. We're here with Josh Bernstein and Rory Michaels and Ron Lutters, and of course Doris is running this marvelous machine that we have here.
She's
We'd
doing a
like
good
to
job.
get your ideas on our background. Let us know what you think. We are going different backgrounds all for the next couple of weeks.
Next week, we're going to be in the jungle.
We're going to be, I think, in the Grand Canyon. Down at the bottom. There you go.
Be weird animal sounds.
So, at any rate, we got to pay some bills, so you just stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Are you tired of the long lines and impersonal service you get at the post office? Well, we have a solution for you. Pac Mail is an all-in-one mail center conveniently located in the Fry Shopping Center at 3218 East Bell Road, right here in Phoenix. Owned and operated by Arizona residents Mark and Vicky Battaglia, you can be sure of getting personalized professional service. They will pack, crate, freight, and ship your items anywhere in the world. They work with all the major carriers like DHL, UPS, USPS, and Federal Express. Need an address for your home business or startup company? They have P.O. boxes on site where you can receive and pick up your mail anytime, and their knowledgeable and courteous staff will find a way to ship that awkward or heavy item. You can even have your packages picked up and delivered for a small fee. Their motto is, if you can imagine it, we can ship it. Drop in on the good folks at Pac Mail and let them do the work for you. Pac Mail can be reached at 602-971-2300 or email at info@weshipphoenix.com. That's Pac Mail, 602-971-2300 or info@weshipphoenix.com. Are you tired of the long lines and impersonal service you get at the post office? Well, we have a solution for you. Pac Mail is an all-in-one mail center conveniently located in the Fry Shopping Center at 3218 East Bell Road, right here in Phoenix. Owned and operated by Arizona residents Mark and Vicky Battaglia, you can be sure of getting personalized professional service. They will pack, crate, freight, and ship your items anywhere in the world. They work with all the major carriers like DHL, UPS, USPS, and Federal Express. Need an address for your home business or startup company? They have P.O. boxes on site where you can receive and pick up your mail anytime, and their knowledgeable and courteous staff will find a way to ship that awkward or heavy item. You can even have your packages picked up and delivered for a small fee. Their motto is, if you can imagine it, we can ship it. Drop in on the good folks at Pac Mail and let them do the work for you. Pac Mail can be reached at 602-971-2300 or email at info@weshipphoenix.com. That's Pac Mail, 602-971-2300 or info@weshipphoenix.com.
And now here's your host, Ronald Lutter.
Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are in beautiful Studio C. We'd like you to tell us what you think of our background now. We've got different studios that we've been working with. We got a couple of little lights here that tell us when to go to break, and we are really excited about it. So you let us know. Please help us, our sponsors, because they help us keep our programming going. And when we left, Ray, we were talking about some issues in Eastern Europe.
Well, when you think about the Bidens, right? And when he was sitting there and he said, well, we wanted this guy fired and everything. This was all the Ukraine, even though they were pointing their finger at Russia. And remember, the communication that they impeached President Trump was because he was talking to the Ukraine. It wasn't Russia.
Right.
And so what you were saying, Josh, was it wasn't necessarily Russia.
No. Not at all. Russia didn't, interfere in the election. Russia didn't try to spy on President Trump. It was Ukraine. It was Ukraine. But the problem is that they're so in bed, the left and the Democrats, with Ukraine, that they needed a boogeyman. They needed a bad guy. And so they obviously used that Russia thing because they don't like Russia, because Russia is more of an independent nation, it's more of a nationalist nation, and it's more of a Christian nation, and more importantly, it's anti-NATO. And so it doesn't, go with the flow of America and Canada and all the rest of the globalist, countries out there. And so that's why they picked them as the scapegoat.
Ron, it was interesting. Our president gets up there, talks all about Ukraine, right? And about their democracy and how it's important to protect their borders, yet he's not protecting ours. And he said nothing about Canada. Now, Canada is unique. We think of Canada, Australia, United States, right? Australia many years ago gave what did they do, exchanges for their weapons, right?
Yep.
Yes.
We honor our Second Amendment. In fact, we actually had, I think it was the 6th annual Second Amendment rally just this last weekend. So we hold that very dear to us.
Phoenix Gun Show is this weekend too, I think.
Phoenix Gun Show, okay. But in Canada, it's a little bit different. Tell us about that.
You've been in a life-threatening accident. You're unconscious, bleeding, and need immediate medical attention. The first responders have no idea of your medical history and can only give emergency medical treatment by guessing. Only quick action can save your life. Now there is an answer for missing medical history. It's the all-new Medical Red Alert ID. The Medical Red Alert ID was created purposely to save lives in emergency medical situations when time is of the essence. Medical Red Alert ID is an integrated file storage and retrieval system with a quick and comprehensive system of providing emergency personnel with crucial medical and identity information when time is critical. The Medical Red Alert ID sticker and card fob are merely tools to facilitate the best flow of medical information at all times, both for emergency and non-emergency health care. Medical Red Alert ID is the future of human safety that not only applies to the workplace, but at all aspects of our lives. Join the revolution now. To find out more about Medical Red Alert ID, go to their website at redalertid.com.
Welcome back to Fighting Back.
Ron, it was interesting. Our president gets up there, talks all about Ukraine, right? And about their democracy and how it's important to protect their borders, yet he's not protecting ours. And he said nothing about Canada. Now, Canada is unique. We think of Canada, Australia, United States, right? Australia many years ago gave what did they do, exchanges for their weapons, right?
Yep.
Yes.
We honor our Second Amendment. In fact, we actually had, I think it was the 6th annual Second Amendment rally just this last weekend. So we hold that very dear to us.
Phoenix Gun Show is this weekend too, I think.
Phoenix Gun Show, okay. But in Canada, it's a little bit different. Tell us about that.
Well, in Canada, they obviously had some school shootings and some other mass shootings, and of course, with the Liberals being in control, they did a very similar program as Australia. They did a buyback program, and they basically said that anyone that wants a gun, they have to be registered, and they kind of made that a rule. So there's 44 million people in Canada, and about 2.2 million or so are actually registered gun owners that can carry a firearm. Now, that's not necessarily a huge number because it's only 26% of the population. And again, what percentage of that percentage are actually government officials, firemen, police officers, all those types. What do they call them? The Royal Mounted Canadian Police, the ones that like to trample on people. So that's 26%. But here's the other part of this. Hunting rifles and shotguns are not regulated nor prohibited in Canada. You're allowed to have them as much as you want. So that's probably another 2 to 4 million more Canadians that have that. And then, of course, just like anywhere else, not everybody's going to agree with the law, and not everyone's going to obey the law. So there's probably another 2 to 4, maybe 5 million illegal guns that are not registered in the hands of Canadians. So in all, there's probably about 40% of the population, is my guess, that is actually armed in Canada. So they're not completely without firearms there, but certainly they're not anywhere near the United States.
You know, I could see a lot of people who frequent the United States come in, have a love, as we do, for the Second Amendment, and say, you know what, I'd like to protect myself as well, and then just take it over the border. I mean, I could see that happening.
Yeah, and I hope it happens a lot, and I hope Canadians come into America and buy, a zillion guns, as many as you can get. If you can get them, you can get the bullets. That's been pretty hard as of late in the last few years.
There was just a recent court decision on this school shooting back about 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago now. Can't think of the name of it. Was the children were killed by an AR-15 that was made by Remington, and there was a court case. Now, how a rifle or a pistol can be
that was ridiculous.
Responsible for a murder of anybody. I mean, the gun just lays there. It's an inanimate object. And the courts just said they owe something $7 million.
No, but that's going to go for appeal, I'm sure.
But that's the left trying to.
What about hammers, knives? I mean, any type of
in
gardening
old
equipment.
England, they can't have guns there, and their major weapon is butcher knife. Outlaw butcher knife.
Speaking of Second Amendment, too, Kyle Rittenhouse. Do you have anything to say about that? Because I know we're coming short on time, but Josh, I knew that if I mentioned that you'd be right on top of this one.
I think he came out with something called the Media Accountability Project, TMAP, I think it's called, TMAP. And he basically put out an ad. If you haven't seen it, you've got to see it. Maybe I'll run it in the next couple of days. But the ad is awesome. It is truly awesome. He shows all the people that called him a white supremacist and, a racist and all this other stuff. And then at the end, you see a picture of him with his eyes kind of like glowing, almost like he's like targeting them like Superman or something. And then it basically says, I'm coming after all of you. And he's going to sue all of them. LeBron James, Biden, Whoopi Goldberg, all of them. He's going after them all. And then again, like I said, he has this TMAP that's coming out. So it's the Media Accountability Project. This is going to be amazing. And I do hope that he is going to team up with Sandman, Nicholas Sandman, who also, took CNN to the cleaners.
He took
so the two of them together, they should put all of their money into this, and they should have basically a regulation, a watchdog, if you will, on all left-wing media. Because it's not the right that lies. It's the left that does.
And you know what? They need to pay the price. They do.
Something happened here, as you know, in Scottsdale, where we had a lot of about 300 or 400 Afghanistan people that were brought in here and stayed at the nice resorts, and they weren't supposed to be here. And now I see, are you ready for this? This was something that came over the line, that the Biden administration is now going to flood Loudoun County, Virginia, with 16,000 Afghanistanis.
Wow. Look for some suicide bombs to be happening in the next 6 months.
Now, why would they do that? Why would you think they would do that, Josh?
Because they want them to be able to vote. Of course, they want to be able to get Virginia.
Because it's retribution, right, for the school boards,
and they turned Virginia red.
Right.
They changed the whole Democrat government, and the critical race theory in the schools.
Yeah, they shot it all down. You've got Youngkin in there, and he's been, pretty hardcore anti-CRT, which is what he ran on.
I'm wondering, Youngkin, I mean, it is his state. Can he just deny them?
He should be able to.
It's his state.
I don't know. I mean, the federal government doesn't have carte blanche. They can't just, have flights in the middle of the night and picking people up and dropping them off into states. They can't do that. And so I would hope more of these governors are going to have, armed National Guard members at airports in their states and saying, guns pointed at you. Get these people back on the plane and bring them to Delaware. Bring them to Delaware.
Yeah.
Drop them off in Rehoboth Beach at his house.
But we need those strong governors to say, not in my state.
Not in my backyard.
Closer to home, Ray.
Yes.
Closer to home. I don't know if you saw this, but there is a congressman by the name of Ruben Gallego. a this guy, I can't believe, he's a United States Marine, but this guy is about as left can go.
Yeah. he's a
Right now,
communist.
he's talking about these truckers that may be heading to Washington, D.C. He wants their vehicles confiscated and giving them free of charge to upstart businesses. Now, what part of this is against the Constitution? Like
All
the
of it.
Fourth Amendment,
all of it.
illegal search and seizure?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and what about the dogs? You know, that was a big thing.
Yeah.
You kind of skimmed over that, but they said that if they arrested the truck driver, put them in jail, if their animal was unaccompanied for a certain length of time, that they would be put into a facility, and if they weren't claimed, then they'd be destroyed. Is that right?
I heard that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and somebody else did that.
Isn't
Adolf
liberalism
Hitler.
beautiful?
The Germans did that. They
Wow.
took the pets away from many of the Jews back in World War II.
But guys, this Ruben Gallego, this man,
Who's running against him? Do we know?
I don't know, but
Okay.
whoever it is, they should win. This man, to me, even make a suggestion like this,
He should be arrested.
Well, it's un-American.
The Constitution.
I mean, it's theft. He's literally
Yes.
advocating for
Include-
theft.
If they
They
take an
took an oath to support the Constitution,
an
it's the
oath.
Fourth Amendment.
and if they go against the oath of the Constitution, if they go against it at all, there should be ramifications. Not only not being elected, they should be arrested.
They should be arrested
in
for
my
theft.
opinion. Yeah,
Absolutely.
No, I agree.
when you take an
Attempted
oath,
robbery.
you
I
take
mean, you
an
can
oath.
really kick it all the way up.
But
Because
you know,
if you're
there
going
was
to
some
take a
good
big
news.
risk.
There was some good news coming out of Florida. Florida had an election yesterday. I don't know if anybody even knew it, but they had. It was not a congressional election, but it was a city council election, and the city was very, very Democrat.
Which city was it?
I think it was Jacksonville,
Okay.
and a Republican won
Wow.
a seat and won considerably handily.
Mm-hmm.
And Biden carried that county, wherever Jacksonville is. It's up
Allegedly.
the coast. I know, but I
Allegedly,
know.
exactly. He didn't carry anything. He didn't even carry his.
Now that
depends.
leads me to the next thing. Did anybody see Dr. Shiva's report yesterday that came out in the Gateway Pundit?
I heard a little bit about it. He basically did some cross referencing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And he figured out that there was thousands and thousands more fraudulent votes
There were at
in
least
Arizona.
200,000 votes that came in that nobody looked at the signatures.
Yeah.
Wow. Is that here or is
Here,
that
Maricopa
here?
County.
Wow. Dr. Shiva?
Yeah.
Wow.
Meanwhile, we have Noomchuk Brnovich swinging Noomchucks instead of, putting out subpoenas.
Well, and we
It's
also have
unbelievable.
the Speaker of the House, too, who's
Oh, my
not
God.
supporting
the
anything.
artist, the
Karen
BS
Fan.
artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rusty Bowers.
Oh, Rusty
Yes.
Bowers.
Rusty Bowers.
And you've had him
who,
on the
by the
show,
way,
right?
Yeah. he's been-
Could you
Who,
get
by
him
the
back
way-
on? Because I want to destroy him.
I doubt it. I told him that we really wanted him to come back, and we wanted to have him sending a lot of the representatives from at least the GOP side. He can't. The Democrats won't come on the show.
He's a sculptor. You know that?
He's
a
very,
sculptor.
very
And
good
he's an
artist,
artist.
yes.
So he's really a BS artist, is what he is.
Well, and just for your own FYI, if you live here in Arizona, back in the 70s, they voted for term limits. A
Yes.
lot of states don't have term limits. We do. And you're only supposed to serve a certain term in the House.
I think it's
You're
6
only-
years.
And a certain term in the
3 terms,
Senate.
6 years. Yes.
Right. So what they've done to circumvent that is they go and they're in the House and they serve, and then immediately they jump over to the Senate and they serve. Now, the average person just sees the name. They have name recognition. Oh, I'll vote for them again, not realizing that they're circumventing term limits. And I actually asked Rusty Bowers, I asked him, would you advocate for them to wait out 1 or 2 cycles before jumping from one legislative body to another?
And he said, absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, because
They go from one to the next, to the next, to the next. That's why when I ran for state senator, I ran against a woman who was there for over the last 40 years, 44 years,
Was she a
something like that.
Republican?
No, she was
the crypt
surprisingly.
She was the crypt
She was
keeper.
not. She was not. She was not. It was.
She
It was a
wasn't
shock.
the washroom attendant at the Capitol.
No.
No, but
She didn't
term
leave her
limits
gun in the
means
Capitol
term
washroom.
limits. That means when you finish your term, that you get out. Now you can work for the county, you can work for the state,
You're gone.
you can do a general dog's body, you can be a dog catcher. It doesn't matter. But don't go from one legislative body to another
Exactly.
because then it's self-serving, and you're supposed to be a public servant.
So his plan is to finish out his term as the Speaker of the House
and then run for
and
Senate.
then run for the Arizona State Senate.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Name recognition.
And he's been there before. He ran.
He was there right
uh,
before he was
represented-
part
then
of the
out
House.
for a term, and then he went back in. So this is one of
do you
these
do?
people where they'll be in there for like 25, 30 years.
We had a chance many months ago in the beginning of her candidacy, actually, to interview Carrie Lake. And I don't know if you've seen, but Carrie Lake is blowing up pretty big all over the place.
She was here first.
Yeah, she was here first, right? There was one of the first interviews.
Yeah,
that's right.
When she started, she was
And
right
she
here.
did ask Ray and I the other day if we'd have her back.
I would say, why don't we bring her back on?
Oh,
I've
she
got
wants
a lot
to
of
come on.
questions
Yeah.
that I'd like to ask her. And she was smart. She was articulate. She answered our questions. And there's a lot of things that are out there now because she's had a lot of opportunity to talk to lots of people, lots of media figures, and things like that. So I think it would be a really refreshment, if you will, to bring her back on and have some more.
She had a wonderful interview that made it into the national news, where somebody, I believe from ABC, was interviewing her, and she turned around and jumped all over her, and yay, she'd be the hero of. But you know what? Being in this business, Ray, I don't think that was an accident. I think that was a total setup.
Well,
Because how would you happen to have a cameraman with you when you're doing?
Well, she
Right.
remember, she knows what happens behind the scenes.
Of course she does.
And she knows what happens in the editing floor. So she recorded it with her videographer at the exact same time that they were doing it, so that if it was edited out or they were misrepresenting what she was saying or taking it out of context, that she had the evidence to do that.
you
And she
see,
ended up playing that.
Here's the catch. Okay, now if you were the gal from ABC, and she was being made a
I'd have to have
fool
a
of by
wig.
Carrie Lake, I might add, she was being really manipulated by. Wouldn't you say, "Cut"? We're not going to have our person, our news reporter, humiliated with your cameras rolling.
Well, you never know. It's something called ear prompting, right? They have their producer in their ear instructing them. So it could have been where the producer said, try to move it this way, go this way, shorten it up, lengthen it out. So they're constantly getting information. And when you're used to reading a teleprompter, you can read and listen at the same time.
Sure.
So,
But at CNN, the producers are typically chasing after little girls or boys.
well, they're hearing
So
a lot
they're
of
not
heavy
hearing-
breathing
they're
in the
hearing heavy
background.
breathing. Yeah.
And things shuffling around in the background.
But anyway,
Oh,
if you
gosh.
can, we should have her back on.
Yeah, we will. We will, absolutely.
We have a lot of candidates here that I want to get on. And,
Josh, it's always wonderful to have you here.
Thank you. It's always
That's
my
Josh
pleasure.
Bernstein from Josh Bernstein Uncensored.com.
we have had, by the way, at least 3 gubernatorial candidates on.
Yes.
And we have 2 more that we need to pick up. I think there's 5.
Well, we're going to get Steve Gaynor on, I know.
Right.
Right.
And then,
Matt
Salmon.
Salmon is going to be coming on.
yeah,
That's a great name.
Gaynor, Salmon,
Brian Mache is running.
Brian
I'm not
Mache,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Matt Salmon, regardless of whether you like him or not, I like the last name because if I was to do a campaign ad, I would have like AOC as a fish going downstream. I'd have Biden going downstream. I've had all these leftists going downstream, and then I'd have him going upstream. Matt Salmon, I go upstream against the current or something like that. I don't know. I just think there's a lot to play with that.
I love that. I saw it.
And what would you do for Jeff Flake? What would you do?
Oh God, it would be snowing. It would be 30 below zero, and Jeff Flake would just be an icicle outside, basically.
No, but I thought this one, and I saw that Salmon for governor, and I thought the word "the" should be in there. Salmon for the governor.
Or the salmon for governor. Reminds me of that fish that you see, the bass on the wall. What's that song it sings?
Don't
Take
worry.
Me Out to the River. No, Take Me Out to the River. Take Me Out to the River, and it does that thing.
The way he turns.
It's about time. It's about time that we close
Yeah, we're
this.
getting silly.
Yes, we're getting kind of goofy
We're
here
getting
with
silly.
what we sing. So, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for watching from the bottom of Ray Michael's heart. Thank you for watching, and we will see you again very soon. Good night, and thanks for watching. Doris, take us out. Ray, I remember that.
I remember that too. And,
I don't. I was 4 years old.